I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff, and you're listening to the Double Clutch Podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Double Clutch NBA Podcast. I'm Matthew Wellington, one of your usual hosts. I'm joined tonight once again by Joe Hulbert.
Hi Matt, how's it going?
I'm very well, and we've got Mike Miller.
Hello.
All recovered from barfing a baby.
I'm fully recovered, thanks.
It's almost as stressful as covering the trade deadline.
Right, it's even more stressful when you're juggling one and then trying to keep up with the texts on the phone and all the different notifications that are coming through.
Yeah, so we are recording this on Tuesday, the 5th of February, at about 9 o'clock-ish. And it's safe to say Twitter's going pretty bonkers at the moment. We launched our trade deadline tracker on doubleclutch.uk late last night. Hasn't really got busy until just now, but if you are interested in what's going on and all the sort of unsubstantiated and substantiated rumours that are floating around at the moment, go and check that out. We've posted links on basically all of the social platforms on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, linking it to that. All of our contributors, everybody here who spends their time writing for Double Clutch, is basically chucking in their penny every time something happens. Anytime a Woj bomb goes off or Stein reports something, or we're keeping Woj. Woj. Anytime anything gets posted, we're kind of keeping an eye on it, and we're also just hunting around Twitter and the social sphere anyway, just to see if there's anything going on. It's amazing the amount of fake stuff that occurs during trade deadline week.
Yep, it is. I saw one. Well, it was in the Slack chat the other day. Some crazy trade that was apparently Woj. What was it? Some bizarre trade. Can you remember? I'm not going to be able to find it now.
I don't know. I saw one earlier that had like 50 players being traded from 3 teams. It was like the whole of the Celtics ended up playing for the Pelicans, and then the whole of the Pelicans ended up playing for the Lakers, and like it was the weirdest possible thing. Someone had clearly spent too much time on ESPN's trade machine to get that to work. But yeah, there was a lot of trades and stuff flying around. I mean, I was guilty as well myself when AD announced that he wanted to test the waters or whatever it is. I was on the trade machine making up trades. I was trying to work out a way of sending him to the Thunder, but I don't think Sam Presti's on the same wavelength as me for that one. So yeah, basically we haven't done a show in a couple of weeks. We've been a bit slack on the podcasting front, but then again, the last show we did do was an absolute monster, wasn't it?
Yeah, we needed recovery time after that.
I think you guys needed recovery time after listening to it as well, judging from
I did. I only finished it on Thursday.
Oh wow, it's taken you a while, man.
It was good though. I love going through all the teams like that.
Yeah, it's difficult. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I'd probably split it up into the conferences next time and get the alphabetical order correct. That was my own fault. I may have put the Miami Heat in terms of Heat and not Miami, which I didn't notice at the time, but Mike kindly pointed out afterwards.
I don't think it was me, actually. I don't know who it was.
I thought it was you.
That doesn't sound like something I do. It totally does, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
So that was our pretty interesting Q2 review. So we've done 2 of those so far. We'll have some more coming up, obviously. But this show is going to be heavily trade rumor and injury related, but there's been quite a bit going on in terms of like discussing what's going on in the league. We're not really going to look at who's won what recently. We're going to jump straight into it really with some sort of developing news tonight. John Wall's Achilles injury has popped back up again. The Wizards look like they're even more stuffed than they were at London a couple of weeks ago. So the Wizards posted probably about an hour ago saying that John Wall had developed an infection in the incision from surgery, which he had on his bone spur in his left heel. And they're stating that he ruptured his Achilles again after slipping and falling at home, which is an interesting one. Juju Smith I think he plays for the Steelers. Is it the Steelers? Come on, Joe, you could correct me here. He was on Instagram posting on the post going, "Dude, what were you doing in the crib?" Which I found awfully amusing. But yeah, John Wall averaged 20 points, 8.7 assists and 3.6 rebounds in 32 games for the Wizards this season. Didn't play in NBA London, which was obviously a bit of a sore point for UK-based fans, but this leaves the Wizards in all kinds of trouble, doesn't it?
Well, they're already in a lot of trouble, but I think, the worrying thing is, in prep for this, I was reading Zach Lowe on the ESPN, and he said that he'd be shocked if any of the Wizards got moved. I'm wondering if this injury changes that a little bit. Because to be honest, I've always kind of maintained that with a decent coach, the Wizards would comfortably be a playoff team. Wall, Beal, Porter's a nice trio to build around, but a year, he won't even be back until midway through next season. So you've got to write off next year as well. And, and the worry is with Wall. Wall is not a guy who I think can adapt from that injury. He's not a shooter. I just don't think he can play off the ball. He's built on explosiveness and attacking downhill. I'm wondering how much of an impact these back-to-back injuries are going to have on him. And whether that will... Ernie Grunfeld's incompetent, but I'm wondering if even someone as stupid as him is going to think, actually, maybe building a team around a downhill guard who's coming off those injuries is not a very good idea.
It's amazing how we're talking about those injuries, and actually his entire career is just littered with injuries. Like September 2012, stress injury to left knee. May 16, surgery on both knees. November 17, inflammation in the left knee. January 18, procedure to clean up left knee. December 18, left heel surgery. February 19, torn ruptured Achilles tendon. You're bang on for a guy who is or has been reliant on his ability to blow by guys. These just racking up these lower limb injuries is a scary, scary thing, especially when you've thrown all that money at him as well. And I know it's not even kicked in yet. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Achilles is a killer as well for those sort of sudden changes of direction that a downhill guard is built on. Derrick Rose is the guy that kind of everyone keeps bringing up now. You see it in flashes with even this D Rose, but not the same. And he doesn't really. These guys don't really have enough else to their game to kind of go and spot up and play off the ball somewhere else. Especially when the way I see it is, let's say Wall does develop off ball, you've got him on a supermax contract. That's a very expensive spot up shooter.
Yep, off the ball, isn't he the league's slowest average pace as well? He basically just stands there.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think some of that is just the horrendous coaching. But yeah, he just doesn't move. He will literally just stand there on the perimeter, hoping the ball comes to him. So, from a roster building perspective, they are in... Well, to be honest, they've been pretty bad since certainly I followed the NBA. I know that Grunfeld has been there. Am I right in saying, Mike, he's been there quite a long time?
Wait, why are you asking me that? Yeah, he's been there about 15 years.
He's been there a long time, and I'm kind of... What will it take for them to kind of bin him off? Because now, I don't think you have a choice. You have to go into a rebuild. But then again, can you rebuild with a guy on that contract? No one's taking him. No one's trading for that contract. So can you physically rebuild with that and the Porter contract?
When's the next CBA? Because we need to roll back the amnesty allowance, and they just need to be able to cancel and get out of that deal. You can't with that amount of money on the books. He has to, and you can't even shift him. Who's going to take that kind of money? Actually, you say that, we're going to get talking about people who will give up lots of things for money and cap space in a minute. But it's a ridiculous situation. The Wizards, though, are just a laughing stock of a franchise, full stop. They have been for certainly most of the time I've followed the sport, which is at least 15 years. I'm just trying to think who it was before it was Grunfeld. I'm pretty sure it was someone like Wes Unseld, but I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. But I've got a feeling whoever was in that role beforehand was also for a hell of a long time in that role.
Yeah, they've been, well, me and Joe have fallen foul to them over the last couple of seasons, actually, when we've done our pre-season predictions and podcasts, and we've taught them up, and unfortunately they've pretty much always let us down. They had sparks in the playoffs a couple of years ago when Paul Pierce was shining a light on them, but they've not been great since then. I mean, to come over here, to London a few weeks ago and to not come over with Wall was just massive for kind of the effect that it was having over here, because people just weren't interested in the game, and the fact that they're in Washington, the nation's capital in the States, like is there anything pulling people in to watch that team anymore? It's got to be a question that's up for grabs.
The attendances are very poor, and I think the thing is, I think fans can stick by young teams if they're losing, like the Hawks this year. I don't know exactly what the attendances are off the top of my head, but certainly from the Hawks Twitter fans I follow, they are kind of excited about this team. The problem with the Wizards is, and where they're going, as you've said, you've got a lot of untradeable contracts there, unless you're really, it's just a dump. You're not getting anything in return. There's not really a lot to celebrate, and I think that is when attendances suffer, when there's just, you've got a bunch of decent players, you've got a bunch of guys on bad contracts, no real young players to put hope into. I kind of like Thomas Bryant, but I don't think a defensive centre is gonna exactly inspire casual fans, maybe fans who don't watch every game. They're in a really, really horrible place right now.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if we'll see a Beal trade request, because he's going to squander his prime, I think, if he remains there. As much as it'd be great to see him leading a team full time. And I was right. It was Wes Unseld who was appointed in '94. So they don't like to sack people often or get rid of them. So we could have Grunfeld. Why they even get them with similar sounding names? Unseld and Grunfeld. We could. God knows how long we're going to have him for. I say we. I've got no vested interest in it at all.
No affiliation with the Washington Wizards. Yeah, the contract breakdown for Wall does not look nice at all, especially if you go up to the 22-23 season. It's a lot of money to be spending on someone who's not going to really be contributing, and when he does, it might be to a lesser extent than he has done so far. I guess it also screams to the fact that how lucky you can be with players, because he's a guy who's built around his athleticism and his speed, kind of like Russell Westbrook, but Russell Westbrook seems to have rode those injuries so far. I know he's not having a great year shooting wise at the moment, but the athleticism and raw power of his game is still there, and he looks like he's been unaffected by the majority of the injuries that he's suffered throughout his career. John Wall has not really been the same since, well, I mean, the last great season or good season he probably put together was 2016-17, and that was a while ago. I mean, he didn't play much last year, and he hasn't played a lot this year at all either. So they're in a sticky situation, the Washington Wizards. Moving on to some of the trades that have happened throughout the week, we'll just touch on briefly. The Blazers acquired Rodney Hood earlier on in the week, which I quite like. I thought it was a good deal for them. They needed another scorer, the Blazers, and especially on the wing, so they went out and grabbed him. That took place on Sunday afternoon. The Blazers dealt Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin and 2 future second-round picks to Cleveland for Rodney Hood. So I thought that was a nice little move.
Yeah, I think the Blazers heard me say the other week that I try not to affiliate with any team anymore, and I'm trying to be neutral. And then they went and so I've professed many times how I've still been in on the Rodney Hood bandwagon, and every time I've tried to jump off, I get suckered back in. And now they pulled this trade off. Was never a fan of Stauskas being part of that team. I kind of wanted to see what would happen with Wade Baldwin, though. I feel like they've kind of given up on him too early. And for what exactly? You've got, obviously, Hood there. I think he is expiring this summer because he's had to waive his bird rights for the trade to go through. And I'm just like, what is the ceiling for this team? Because they can't think that Rodney Hood's the one piece they need to get them over whatever hump is in front of them, which admittedly is the first round, based on past performance. I just don't know. I think it's a nice move, but I'm not sure how impactful it'll be.
Yeah, I don't think it moves the needle, man. I think he's a solid player. One of the things I liked about him in Utah is he could score on a lot of different play types. But I just don't. He's not going to be needed as a ball handler on that team. But I'm not sure the upgrade over Stauskas is necessarily enough to really justify the move, especially with that expiring contract. Because you're basically saying you're going to kind of have to pay him this summer if you want to keep him. Otherwise, you've literally just rented a guy to win a couple more games and maybe get you out of the first round.
So saying that, wasn't there it was his big chance to get signed last summer. And
Yeah,
no one came calling. He was restricted, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was, and I think a lot of people expected him to get a nice little offer sheet from a bad team, but it just never came. So I think he took the qualifying offer with the Cavs.
I think he might have a chance to steal some minutes from Evan Turner as well.
Yeah, that would probably be better for the Blazers. I mean, for him, he's in the shot window, which I get. Yeah. I'm not sold. I'm just not sold on the move for the Blazers.
well, they're still in the market. They've been discussing possible moves with other teams. Nikola Mirotic has been a name that's floated around on sort of Blazers blogs and fan sites. Jermichael Green as well for the Grizzlies, which I think would be a nice move. I think he's underrated. Evan Fournier's floated around, and Jeremy Lin as well. Like, there's a couple of players, flying around, flying around there. Yeah, Jeremy Lin is the ultimate journeyman. He just seems to have to make a move every couple of years.
I would love Mirotic on this team. I think he'd offer you more shooting than Aminu. Admittedly, he wouldn't offer you the same defense. But that's the thing. That's the kind of moves this team is limited to. I don't think they can go and land. Like Aaron Gordon, I was browsing SB Nation earlier, and Aaron Gordon is a name that keeps coming up on Blazers Edge, which is their Portland Trailblazers site. I think you'd have to move McCollum or someone like that to get him. Aaron Gordon's had a good season. I don't understand. Aminu's name would coming up. I don't know what Aminu would really do for that team. That team needs good guard play and good shooting. Like, with a decent guard, that team's not far off like the 8 seed. I just am not sold that the Blazers really would be better off making a move like that.
Yeah, it's really amusing that you mentioned CJ McCollum, because he was posting on Twitter the other day that he was fed up of listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, because like every year consistently for like the last 3 seasons, Bill Simmons has suggested a trade that includes CJ McCollum, and he was just saying, I'm getting fed up with this, because obviously when Kevin Love was partnered with LeBron in Cleveland, there was always constant rumors about whether or not the Cavs would make that deal, and they never quite did. So yeah, I think CJ McCollum's a bit fed up of being included in trade rumors, but it seems to be a thing for the Blazers players, the Blazers stars. You get the Lillard to the Lakers rumors that were emerging at the start of the season seem to have just disappeared completely, and yeah, it's not fun being on the Blazers. I think purely because of the way the West is at the moment. You look how competitive it is. I mean, they're 4th at the moment on 32 and 20. They could end up falling right down to 8th or even out of the playoffs, depending on how it goes. I think they're too good to fall out, but they're not good enough to get any further, which is what Mike was suggesting a minute ago. There's another one that's just flown up around Twitter over the last sort of 40 minutes while we've been on, regarding the Toronto Raptors. They are apparently willing to trade Kyle Lowry and Jonas Valanciunas straight up for Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, which is an interesting one. You're trading a guy who's been floated around in trade deals for what seems like the last half decade in Kyle Lowry. You're trading Jonas Valanciunas, who has improved immeasurably over the last 2 seasons, for 2 guys who are sort of towards the twilight end of their career, I think it is safe to say. But that would be, if they were to make that move, and Masai Ujiri was to go ahead with that one, that's just buying in on you trying to win this year, or trying to at least reach the finals with that Kawhi, Conley and Gasol sort of super team, I say, in inverted commas.
Apparently the Grizzlies have rejected this offer. It's interesting that that's the route they're going down, because you say Valanciunas has improved immeasurably the last couple of years. They've not used him as much. His role has shrunk hugely. And so perhaps he looks more efficient, but I just don't think his game would translate to anything winning if he was a focal point on the team. So I'm not sure how good he would be as up and down as Gasol's been this year, and as old as Gasol is, and looking quite washed at times. I can see why Memphis just went, no thanks.
I don't get it from either team's perspective. I think for me, if I'm Memphis and I'm kind of moving these guys, I wouldn't mind taking Jonas as a kind of contract, but I would want someone like Anunoby. They're not going to get Siakam, but I'd want Anunoby maybe throw someone like Fred VanVleet in there. I just wouldn't get this move at all. I don't know what it would do. They're not competitive in the East, and to be honest, I think in the West. But one of the things I think Memphis need to do is I think they need to unleash Jaren Jackson as a small ball center. They're never going to do it because they're stuck in the past on and off the court. But I just I wouldn't get this move. And from Toronto's perspective, I want your guys' take on this. I've watched a bit of. I wrote an article for the site on Memphis, and I watched. It was pretty depressing watching the film. But one of the things I noticed on the film is that Mike Conley, I think he's lost a little step defensively. And I think if you're getting him in over Lowry, I'm not sure the upgrade is defensively is there at all, personally. I think Lowry is one of the best defensive guards we've got in the league. And I'm wondering sort of offensively, I would never doubt Masai Ujiri, but what would that point guard swap tell you guys?
I think it would be more a statement of the broken relationship between Ujiri and Lowry, because I remember comments after DeRozan was traded, and it was like, "How are you with Masai?" And he was just like, "Yeah,
really blunt with him." Yeah,
I remember
it
that.
was really quite cold. So half me wonders where this could be. You know what? Let's exile you to Memphis to suffer at the bottom of the West for the rest of your career. I don't know. I kind of feel they're much of a muchness in terms of what you're going to get and what you're going to give up. I think Conley's still got a lot to offer. Still think he's underrated.
Conley's a better offensive player than I think Kyle Lowry is. I think Lowry's proved this season that he is more of a in the system they're in at the moment. He's better as a facilitator. Obviously, he had periods while DeRozan was there where he had to take over and was forced to take over. Notably in the sort of the series against the Cavs last year in the playoffs where DeRozan just disappeared. But I think the fact that Lowry came out and led the league in assists for the good first half of this season kind of showed you what a player he has actually turned into. And they've been trying to move him for a while now. I know the Knicks were interested in him a couple of years ago and that never fell through. But I think if you're upgrading, if you're making a move, you are upgrading at that position, because I think Mike Conley is having statistically a better season than Kyle Lowry, scoring more points. He's averaging less assists, but he does everything else that Kyle Lowry does and probably does it better. But yeah, I think it's the shift in the defensive mentality you get there. Kyle Lowry seems to have really embraced that end of the game this year, which Joe's obviously noticed, whereas Mike Conley still got it, but obviously he's aging, so he's not quite as effective as he used to be on that end.
I think are we forgetting how old Lowry is as well, though? To be fair, aren't they? Well, Lowry's 32. Conley's younger. It's I don't know. I'd also be wary about taking on Gasol. I don't know what role he would play on this sort of flexible Raptors team. Yeah, he'd be great as a big body who can spread the floor, but would he be happy with a reduced role? Because I kind of feel like that's what he'd have to take on to allow the Raptors to be as effective as they have been.
I don't think he's easy to manage either, and we can't forget that Fizdale-Gasol incident. A lot of people blame Fizdale for that, but Fizdale's had zero problems in New York with the players, whereas there have been times this year, I know Gasol wasn't involved in the locker room fight. I think it was Temple and Caspi, but for me, that's not a good sign for your big players if you can't control a locker room. And Gasol said something after that, like, "Oh yeah, I need to be more blunt with my teammates." I feel like at his age, you should be doing that anyway. And my issue with Gasol is he's still a good post defender, but I'm not sure post defense is what matters in this NBA. A lot of teams just don't post up. So if he comes up against Cat or even Embiid, yeah, he'll manage them in the post. But as soon as they pull him out of the paint, he can't handle it. His pick and roll defense is still pretty good, but I think against stretch fives, I'm just not sure he has value. And ultimately, the last couple of years in the playoffs, I do feel what that's kind of come down to. Even guys like Joel Embiid and Rudy Gobert have struggled in the playoffs on the perimeter. Someone like Gasol, who I think is one of those sort of mid-2000s zone centers, rim protector, I'm not sure. I think when you build a roster, you've got to look at the teams you're up against. Could you imagine Brook Lopez against Marc Gasol? he's just going to pull him out of the paint all day long. And I just don't know what value you've got. At least with Valanciunas, he's going to stretch the floor. He's quite a good passer out of the post. I'm not sold on this trade from that perspective, but I can see your guys' point on Conley. I didn't even think about the age.
Shout out Brook Lopez, who, if he carries on the way he's going, will be the first guy in NBA history to average, I think it's 2 blocks and 2 threes a game as a 7-foot center or something ridiculous.
That's insane. He's been torching people this year as well. That him and Giannis pick and roll combo is he just floats out to the corner and just drops threes on everybody. It's ridiculous. No, Joe makes a really good point actually about the post defense becoming irrelevant, because if you look at the Raptors this season, actually, that's part of the reason Jonas is probably, like we were saying a minute ago, maybe that's why he's looked more effective, is because he's playing less minutes. He's coming off the bench because they're preferring to play Ibaka in that starting 5 because he can get out. He's a little bit more mobile, something which I wouldn't thought I'd have said like last year when he didn't look like he could move at all. But next to Siakam, like they've really got it to click there. I think in the games they've played the Bucks this year, though, they have really struggled just in general. And the Raptors this season against the elite teams haven't done too great. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, the other part of me thinks that this is another move to kind of, to see if Kawhi wants to stay around a little bit longer. But maybe he's already made up his mind. Who knows? Right. Moving on to the big one, which shook the NBA on Thursday night last week when Kristaps Porziņģis was abruptly traded to the Dallas Mavericks in what seemed to be the space of about an hour. This was a really interesting one. The New York Times broke this one a week before the trade deadline, which is obviously Thursday this week. It sent Porziņģis, Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee, and Trey Burke all to Dallas in exchange for Dennis Smith Jr., who was obviously the first-round pick in the 2017 draft, 2 future first-round picks, and the expiring contracts of DeAndre Jordan and Wesley Matthews. Wesley Matthews has since been floated around in other potential sort of deals, but Porziņģis was apparently increasingly unhappy with the situation in New York. He was going to become a restricted free agent on July 1st, obviously. He apparently had a meeting with the general manager and the Knicks president and basically just said, I'm not happy with this team. And then it seemed to be about 15 minutes later he was traded. So it's almost, I'm assuming they had this deal, they were already working on this deal before it was announced to the public. But this was a complete shock. I don't think anybody saw this one coming at all. I mean, I knew the Knicks had been quietly canvassing for other deals. We'd seen stuff about De'Aaron Fox and Donovan Mitchell throughout the week, but they were as unlikely as this was. But the Mavs have gone all in, and Mark Cuban seemed very happy. If you watch the press conference unveiling of Kristaps yesterday, he said that they've set themselves up for the next decade, and he doesn't plan on doing what they've done previously in Dallas, letting 2 stars go at a young age.
Was it him who said he drew comparisons to them basically being taller versions of Nash and Dirk?
Yeah.
Brilliant. On paper, yeah. I mean, the trade certainly took me by surprise. I was kind of scratching my head as to, given that AD declared what feels like 2 weeks ago now that he wanted out, and Porziņģis within an hour. That's ruthlessly efficient. There's all this sort of fallout now as to whether they did their due diligence on it, the Knicks, in terms of what they could have shopped him around for elsewhere. But they got what they wanted. I think
they offered him to the Pelicans, didn't they? And the Pelicans shot it straight down.
Well, apparently Kristaps said he wasn't going to sign there as well. which
that doesn't help player power.
No. But it's a bit of a ridiculous situation. And there's the angle that for Dallas, he's agreed to sign the offer sheet this year, which will be a massive amount of money for him to leave on the table, especially given the risk of him coming back. It all seems a bit. His agent's his brother.
That's going to go well then.
yeah. I'm just kind of like, maybe he's not the best person to be advising you on your finances. Maybe he is. I don't know his qualifications, but it seems to me when you've got the chance to re-sign for basically, someone's going to give him a max offer sheet if he wanted to. So why would you accept 6 or 7 mil, which would be his extension for a single year? I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a lot of notes on this one. I expected Dallas to make a move. this
You
was...
didn't expect this one.
No, I didn't. I expected Smith to be moved, even with the report. I think it was about, I want to say, a week before that Carlisle was happy with Smith and they've made up. I never believed that. There's been so many times this year where Dennis Smith has got Rick Carlisle. He's got a reputation of not necessarily building around his point guards. It's a narrative that's still getting trotted out. It's not been true with Smith. There's so many times where you can, on League Pass, where you can visually see him calling out a play, and Smith he'll ignore it. So if they're trying to set up a switch, he'll shoot before it's got time to develop. Or often he will just call his number like you do on 2K down the stretch. It was pretty painful, but this isn't the type of move I expect them to get. From a Knicks perspective, I think a lot of people are saying that Smith is a good get. My take on it, and I don't know if you guys will agree, I don't think Smith mattered at all for the New York Knicks. I see this as a dump-off move. I think Matthews is going to get bought out. Even though Fizdale said some good stuff about DeAndre, he did not look like the same DeAndre Jordan this year. He's lost the explosiveness and the real lack of effort in his rim protection, which you just did not see with the Clippers. I think this is just a dump-off move to get those max slots. I would be very surprised if Smith is at all a big part of their future, especially if that Kyrie/Durant thing all comes together. Smith does not fit alongside those guys because he has zero off-ball threat.
Yeah, I agree. Spoken to a few Knicks fans about it who are like, yeah, but we got Dennis
Just a
Smith
few.
Jr. And yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, but what is Dennis Smith Jr.? He's shows flashes of
A dunker.
amazing athleticism, and then you realise he's just a worse version of your Walls and your Westbrooks, these athletic guards who can't do a lot else. If the move, I agree completely, Joe. Dump off salary, enough room now for 2 maxes in the summer. But I don't think the Knicks have painted themselves at all well. Especially,
No, did you see them slandering Kristaps in the next game in one of the infographics they brought up on screen? It was like the highlights of his career in the Garden,
skipped
and
his exit meeting.
Exit meeting.
Only played in 180 of a possible 290 games or something ridiculous.
Oh, that's bad.
Which, this is a bit of a slap in the face. But I get why they would have those feelings, but why they would put them out there when they're supposed to be going like, "Hey guys,
It's James
you're the best
Dolan.
players
Why
in
are
the
we
league. Come and sign
surprised?
for us." Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's the Knicks.
James
this is
Dolan
supposed to be a new
douchebag, man.
Yeah, but do you think he actually had a say in that? This is like, I don't know. For me, I think this new regime of the
He's got to
president
get sign off somewhere.
well, that's true. The president and the GM was supposed to be like, this is where the Knicks actually sort of become a, air quotes, professional team, and it's not great handling of the situation. I mean, I get the idea that if Kristaps doesn't want to be there, pull the trigger and get rid of him. But you don't need to, leave a bad taste in the mouth. In the mouth, yeah. Well, whatever. You know what I mean.
Yeah, it was a weird one because obviously Kristaps established himself as an all-star and got the infamous nickname of the Unicorn because he was the modern era of the NBA all in one package, and then he tore the ACL and he hasn't played since last February, so he's been out a seriously long time. The Knicks have obviously not been great since then. It's just, they've been trying to make moves. It's part of this new Fizdale era. They've had some sparks. Like the start of this season, there were some fun games. Watching like Frank Ntilikina and some of the guys playing. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. was a guy who was probably always going to get moved. He seemed like he'd be a decent get for most teams in the league because he's pretty effective. It'd be better to see him being coached by Rick Carlisle and seeing what he does over in Dallas now. But it's kind of a gamble for both teams because with the Mavs, you've given up Dennis Smith Jr., who was on a rookie contract, so it wasn't costing you a lot of money in the first place. And then you're bringing in a bunch of sort of has-beens. Courtney Lee's not great. Trey Burke, I don't know what Trey Burke is anymore or ever was. But I like bringing in Tim Hardaway. But the case of it is, it's still a gamble for both these teams because you don't know what you're going to get with Kristaps when he comes back off that injury. You're hoping that it's all fine, and it kind of looked like there was a lot of possibly player discussions, possibly ongoing sort of team discussions way before any of this happened, because if you watch the game between the Mavs and the Knicks one of the nights, There was a lot of hugging and clapping and cheering between Porziņģis and Luka. So maybe they'd been in contact, and then Kristaps has again been on his Instagram posting things and then deleting things, and it's the modern social era of, you know, the soap opera that is the New York Knicks. And yeah, it was on full display last week, basically.
I do kind of feel that we only caught it after it had fully developed. It wasn't like an early thing that was leaked.
The full story is not yet known.
Yeah, Dirk was on Zach Lowe's pod last week, and he was saying, you know, he sort of alluded to this might have been in the works a few days beforehand, and and there was some interesting sort of tidbits like that. There was some talk as well that the reason for the fallout is that Kristaps wants to be playing. He wants to, and that's kind of the Knicks are saying, "Oh no, let's just continue this tank for this year." And you can get that from the franchise perspective. And I don't understand why there's not a clear enough communication constantly with him, and why if that is the situation, why he doesn't understand that him playing could damage their chances of getting whomever, let's call it Zion, or you know, could also put his body at risk if he's not fully recovered. So it's going to be interesting to me to see, you know, whether Dallas actually use him at all. I hope they do, because he's sat on my fantasy injury reserve, and I've got to mention my fantasy team because I seem to do it every time I'm on at the minute. But Joe, do you see them coming back? Because you said you expected them to make a move. If they've made this move, I'd have thought that any move they made now would be to push for a playoff spot. Do you think Kristaps is going to be on the floor this year?
No, I don't expect him to be. I think this year's now, and Rick Carlisle, I don't think he'll like this because he's a guy who's like used to winning. I think this year is about development of Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith's a guy to watch out for. He looks like he's going to be that next sort of Robert Covington type player. I think this year's about development. I think also they're going to go... Rick Carlisle's not really ever used small ball, mainly because they've had Dirk and they've always played him at the 4. I think they're going to try some small ball lineups. They're going to go a bit more positionless. Doncic is going to be the starting point guard now, whereas he wasn't with Dennis Smith there. So I think it's experimental, and I think, you know, if you watch a press conference, they're always talking about, you know, this is it for the next 10 years. We've got the two best Euro. I think Donnie Nelson said they got the two best Euro players locked down, but I think Nikola Jokic would have something to say about that. But either way, they've got two building blocks, and I get there's an element of risk that, you know, he might not come back the same guy, but Dallas have struck out on free agents for years. This roster is not bad enough to bottom out for me. I think even if they'd kept Matthews and Jordan, they're at worst, sort of 11th or 12th in the West. I don't think they're bad enough to go down to the sort of Suns, Grizzlies level. So I think it's a smart move. I think if he signs anywhere, it's going to be playing alongside Luka. But, you know, from a Knicks perspective, I just don't get it. Did you guys see? It's kind of related. Did you see Fizdale's comments about Enes Kanter and that whole situation?
No, I've not seen it.
Basically, so DeAndre Jordan started, even though everyone expected to be brought out, and Fizdale basically fired a shot, an indirect shot at Kanter. He said, "Oh yeah, we're playing DeAndre because he's got good defense." Not only is that maybe not true, although I guess anything's good compared to Kanter's defense, but you talk about this as kind of like a rebuilding year. I don't really understand what good playing DeAndre Jordan does. To me, I look at what the Knicks are doing right now, and this is not me Knicks bashing, as some people like to say I do. Before the start of the season, I was on the... I can't remember who was on the Atlantic pod with me. It might have been you, Mike. Whoever it was, I was saying, you know what? Let's bash the Knicks, but I like the direction they're going in. What's going on right now at this present with this team, I don't understand what they're doing, because you should be looking for the future and looking to develop players who are going to go and play alongside Durant and Kyrie, which is probably their best case scenario. And you're starting DeAndre Jordan, and it looks like they're going to keep hold of Wes Matthews. For me, that's just a really strange thing to do.
I didn't see that clip, but did you see the clip where he Enes Kanter gets up to enter the game and he's like, "No, I said Dennis, not Ennis," and has to sit him back down again.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'll link it to you in a bit. It was brilliant. So he has to sort of sulk his way back down to the end of the bench and then carry on with his DMP CD. It's let's say it does work out well, and the ACL recovers nicely. He's back to being as of a similar player. How good could this pairing be?
I think they're a perfect fit in the set. I think one of the underrated things about Porziņģis, and one of the reasons I don't have him in the sort of Towns and Jokic category, but one of the reasons I think he can be up there, his rim protection numbers have always been very, very good for a, I know he's big, but for a sort of power forward and offensively minded one, his rim protection numbers were very good. He didn't really have a lot around him. So I think this pairing has that, but it's just the spacing you're going to get. It depends whether Carlisle sees him as a 4 or a 5. I think if he sees him as a 5, I think your spacing could be absolutely brilliant. And teams, I think if you run a 5-out offense in this NBA, you're going to put up a lot of points. So from a long-term perspective, it's good. The problem Dallas are going to have is that they have a history under Donnie Nelson of trading their draft picks. I think they traded them for like Monte Ellis. They basically, if any semi-decent player became available, Donnie Nelson said, yeah, I'm going to trade my first-round pick for him. I'm wondering if there's going to be an organizational shift away from that philosophy, because I think the way to keep a young parent like this going is to keep drafting well in the lower rounds.
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, they've traditionally missed out on big-name free agents. They went after Dwight Howard a few years ago, and then Deron Williams, and then they eventually got Deron Williams, but they got him at the end, towards the back end of his career, which is not very helpful. And
they got DeAndre too.
They did, yeah.
They got
after he was
ghost of
locked
DeAndre.
in a room by the Clippers.
They got a broken, battered, and like overworked DeAndre. Clippers like just milked everything out of him, and they gave him the empty carton.
I think it's going to be a really interesting pairing seeing those two together, because they both speak fluent Spanish. So there's an instant connection there, and then you've got the European edge, so that draws in all the fans that are gonna follow those two from a sort of Mavericks marketing sort of sales perspective. It's also fantastic just for European fans to have two great players on one team, hoping that he does recover from his injury all good and proper. But I'm really, really interested to see how it works out. You've got the modern power forward / centre teaming up with the modern all around can do it all in Luka, and Luka's already proved this season that he's going to be a nightmare for teams to defend over the next 10, 20 years of his career. So putting those two together, you just got to kind of sit there and touch wood and hope that it all works out for them. But it's a gamble. But if anyone can get it to work, it's got to be Rick Carlisle, because that man coaches his ass off. And that's one of the things with the Mavericks is like every year they come out and they play pretty well for certain periods, and you think they're going to put it all together, but they never quite have those players to push them over the edge. And now they've got hopefully two transcendent players who are going to keep them relevant for the next 10 years, and it's a long-term move ultimately if it works out. And there's a lot of teams at the moment that are making the decision to make long-term moves because of the state of the sort of the league, and especially the Western Conference at the moment, with how competitive it is in the top heavy areas, with teams like Golden State and Houston and OKC stacking up on talent to try and win now. So playing the long game might work out in the end. But yeah, the player movement seems to be forcing a lot of teams' hands this year, and that's obviously happened with the Knicks again.
Yeah, I think the Mavericks, to be honest, something everyone's overlooking. Everyone's looking to the future. I actually think they're going to be better off this year now. Matthews, I think he was underappreciated, but this team needed playmakers. The problem they've had, certainly since JJ Barea went down, is the only playmaker on the roster is Doncic. I'm not a huge Tim Hardaway guy, but he can create his own shot in the way Wes Matthews couldn't. Like watching Wes Matthews try to do any kind of offense that wasn't coming off the screen was just painful. I'm interested to see what Harrison Barnes does as well. I mean, again, I've well documented that I'm not a huge fan of him, but he'll be able to spot up a little bit more now. I kind of like what Trey Burke will bring off the bench as well. I'm interested to see how the Barea backcourts work. They're not going to defend anyone, but they're going to put up a lot of points. I don't think the Mavericks are going to make the playoffs, which was my prediction, but I back them to look a lot better than they have in the last couple of games.
Yeah, Hardaway Jr. I think we floated his name around a couple of weeks ago on one of the pods as a trade that they should make to sort of pair alongside Luka, because of exactly what you just said about him being able to create his own shot. He's also a guy at the end of the game in a clutch situation where if Luka is the guy getting doubled or they're doing something to stop him, then you have an option there because he's proved it. He's done it in New York in games past. Okay, very briefly to sort of end the show because I know this is going to take a while. But Anthony Davis, who's the man you can't really go a podcast without talking about at the moment, has completely taken over the NBA stratosphere recently since he announced that he would like to be moved from the Pelicans. He still has a year and a half left on his deal, so this is yet again another player sort of showing his power. And at the moment, it seems to be that a lot of the teams around the league are sort of rebelling and sticking with the Pelicans and stopping the Lakers from getting what they want. The Lakers have offered everything but the kitchen sink, it seems to be. People have been joking about trading LeBron for him as well, along with everything else. But this is a franchise that has had one of the top 3 players in the NBA since he was drafted on their team, has made the playoffs, 3 times? I think they've been bounced twice. They made the second round once. I think 9 of his 13 matchups in the playoffs have come against the Warriors, which is unlucky for him. But the Pelicans have consistently failed to put a real team around Anthony Davis, and they've struggled significantly with injuries to guys like Drew Holiday and obviously Anthony Davis himself. But now he has declared what he wants to do. He's also come up with a list of teams he's willing to reconsider signing with, which is ridiculous. The Lakers, Knicks, the Clippers, and the Bucks. The Bucks aren't going to make a move. I don't know why they would. They're completely coasting in the Eastern Conference right now. Plus, I'm not entirely sure they want to give up guys like Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton potentially to get him. But yeah, I mean, curious to hear what your thoughts are. Joe, I know you've been quite vocal on the double clutch Slack this week regarding the Lakers' current offering, or the Godfather offer, which is really lame because like the Godfather 3 was a terrible movie and the Godfather 3 offer was also a terrible offer. So there's some sort of comparison going on there. But yeah, it's a case of, what do you do if you're the Pelicans and what do you do if you're the Lakers right now?
I think New Orleans are backed into a corner, obviously. I think there's been a revised offer from the Lakers, which has thrown Josh Hart into it. So I think makes it a little bit better. I quite like Josh Hart. I think he's switchable and I think he's got a good outside shot. The hard thing I have about judging this Lakers young core, well, there's 2 things. One, because you're a big market, I think fans do overhype your players a bit that you don't necessarily get at teams like Minnesota, Memphis. But 2, I think the thing they've suffered from bad coaching from Luke Walton, and certainly this year, this team is in win now mode. They're paired with very strange players, and I don't think Luke Walton has quite known how to navigate. Does he try and win now? Does he just build around LeBron and what you get when you have LeBron as your lead ball handler, or does he let these young guys develop? I think he's fallen somewhere in the middle, and that's why, although I'm low on this group, I do kind of look more so at Lonzo Ball, and I think, could Alvin Gentry do something with him? Because Alvin Gentry is seen as this sort of pace and space guy, but he's just an offensive guy, period. If you give him a guy like Lonzo Ball, he's a great passer, he can attack downhill off cuts, I think he'll do a lot more than what Luke Walton has done with him. So Ball, for me, a lot of people think Kuzma's the main piece. I think Ball is the main piece. I think Kuzma was good for... Like, if Kuzma was drafted in the top 10, I don't think we'd be hyping him this much. He was very good for where he was selected. I just don't think he does enough other than volume scoring. And I think a player like that doesn't necessarily contribute to winning in this league. The offer of Hart was better. I don't want it to sound like I'm disrespecting the Lakers' young players, but personally, I'd be on the phone to the Clippers if I'm Dell Demps. I would much rather see an offer around Shea, Harrell, people like that, than what the Lakers are offering.
So since we've been on, nothing major's happened. Don't panic. But
freaking out right now.
Ant Davis 23 liked Bleacher Report's comment that the Lakers' final offer included Lonzo Kuzma, Ingram, Hart, Zubac, KCP, 2 first-rounders for Pelicans, to the Pelicans for AD and Solomon Hill. So he's out
and
there.
2 statues outside the Staples Center plus lifetime worth of nachos.
Just makes me chuckle, really. Like, that there is this much star power. And you mentioned Lonzo for a minute there, and this is the delusions of grandeur that I think the Ball family suffer from. We've got guys out here who are all NBA guys like Kristaps Porziņģis and AD who are making these trade requests, and then you've got someone like Ball who's like, I don't want to go to New Orleans, I want to go to Phoenix. And it's just like you'd have a say. It's like, I wouldn't refuse. I wouldn't re-sign there. Well, good for you, mate, because like he's got potential to be all right, but is he gonna be the game changer that a lot of people ridiculously claimed he might be coming out of college? It's nuts. I'll just look at it like this whole speak it into existence. At some point, you're just speaking BS, and it's just not happening.
Yeah, someone I follow on Twitter put it great. He said, you've got Anthony Davis, multiple-time All-Star, a guy who dragged them over the line in a playoff series last year, telling people where he goes. Then you've got Lonzo Ball, a guard who's not even averaging 10 points and has an effective field goal percentage of 48%, demanding where he goes. I see my take on Ball, and I think the stats back this up. I think he's like a slightly worse version of Marcus Smart. That's my take, and I think he's a high-energy defensive guard with jump shot mechanics that don't look bad, but they just don't go in. Although Smart has shot a lot better this year. I think, I kind of like Ball. I think Marcus Smart type player is valuable. It's not valuable enough for him to go, I'm not going to re-sign there. And his dad doesn't help. He was on Arizona radio earlier, and he just...
Didn't he call the Lakers losers or something?
He called the Lakers losers, and he called Luke Walton the worst coach in the league. So, and Luke Walton's not a good coach, but who does LeVar Ball think he is? To be honest, I would understand more if Anthony Davis's dad came out and criticised Alvin Gentry, because although they were good last year, I kind of maybe think Gentry has held him back a little bit because they should be doing better. What makes LeVar Ball think the Lakers should be doing any better than they are right now just because of his son? His son's decent, better than I'll ever be, but he's not. It's not a franchise changing player. That's my LeVar Ball rant over. It's been a while.
Yeah, Lonzo's one of those guys who, if you're just a casual NBA fan, you're not going to appreciate him very much because he doesn't do the stuff that you expect a basketball player or an NBA player to do. He does the gritty stuff, and it was the same with Julius Randle. He did all the other stuff that wasn't pretty and didn't cover the highlight reels, and now he's getting an opportunity in New Orleans to sort of do everything he wants to do, and he's fully taken it and ran with it. And I guess it's kind of similar with D'Angelo Russell as well. He's had a chance to sort of prove himself after the absolute storm of chaos that he unleashed while he was with the Lakers. But
and that's the thing, Matt. Seeing what Gentry has done with Randall, do you kind of have this fear in the back of your mind that all these young players will go to New Orleans, and although they might not win many games, Gentry will make them look good? Yeah,
I think the opinion of Luke Walton was overinflated when he had the pleasure and the privilege of coaching one of the greatest teams of all time while Steve Kerr was out, and I'm not entirely sure he had that much of an impact on coaching them that season. It landed in the job, which was obviously a bust decision, and then it's kind of LeBron's camp have been quite adamant that they didn't really want him there since he seemed to arrive in the summer. There's always been the undermining rumours that he wants him out. Those rumours exploded again last week when they actually played the Warriors, and there was a lot of apparently fallout in the locker room between some of the veteran players and.
Let's name these veteran players and then comment on these veteran players. JaVale McGee, Michael Beasley, and Lance Stevenson. And I'm sorry, if they're the veteran players that are cornering the coach, I'm sorry, but JaVale McGee was gifted a championship. Let's not make out he's anything special.
Yeah, he was part of that greatest team.
And it's just what? These three guys, I'm sorry, but if they're the three guys on that roster calling the coach out, then the coach has probably done something right.
Yeah,
Michael Beasley.
And that's my problem with this whole Lakers team is that outside of LeBron, you've got a lot of guys who think they're a lot better than they are, on and off the court, clearly. Beasley, I kind of like him, but he's still speaks for himself as this sort of, what he was in his rookie year. This brilliant scorer.
He was supposed to be this phenom when he came in, yeah.
He was, and he just stagnated, ended up on a really bad Timberwolves team. Lance is just garbage. He's
comedy value.
I'm with Mike. I never actually saw it like that, but if those are your veterans who are kind of picking out the coach, if I'm Walton, I'd just turn around, and he would never do this, but I'd be like, what? Well, actually, there's kind of a reason that these were your only offers.
It's Magic trying to, he came into the franchise and stated that he was going to return them to greatness, and it just seems to have been slightly ill decision after slightly ill decision. And I mean, I guess the thing is, if you look at this tonight, there's been rumours that they've said they're not going to make any more offers and they're going to wait for a counteracted deal. But I think at the moment the Pelicans are quite obviously trying to leverage the threat of the Boston Celtics over the Lakers at the moment, wait until the summer and then go out and grab all those first round picks that Danny Ainge has been hiding up underneath TD Garden for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, you're going to get a Grizzlies top pick, probably a Kings top pick, probably a Clippers. They're far more valuable than I think anything the Lakers have got to offer. And I think the other perspective at the moment is, I've been quite vocal about it, trading a lot of these guys plus your future for one man, it seems like a very Knicks decision to make. Throwing away your future. I mean, at the moment, if you don't get Anthony Davis, I mean, you've still got the best player in the world on your team. You've still got a promising young core. Lonzo Ball's got something there. Ingram's shown flashes. Kuzma's good. Josh Hart's good. Zubac is surprisingly good. And then you've got 37 million plus of cap space anyway. So, and you keep all your draft picks. You don't end up giving away 4 first-round draft picks and 2 second-round draft picks.
A couple of points on that, though. With the whole Boston trade, AD has been, the noises he's not willing to resign there. So how that will put the brakes on any sort of move there, because they're not going to want to give up the treasure trove of collected assets for a guy who's going to be there for a year and not re-sign the extension.
But they're of the belief that if they get AD, then that keeps Kyrie in play, and then that'll be their core going forward. And at the moment, everyone's trying to build their own super team. So if you've got AD and Kyrie on the same court together
for one season, and then AD will walk.
Well, we don't know. It will be one season. This is all. But
that's what he's saying. Like, the posturing that's being done at the minute is that, don't send me to Boston. I don't want to be there. And that's what his dad's come out and said, referencing IT.
But then his list has got the Clippers on there. Why would the Pelicans trade him to the Clippers? There's nothing the Clippers have got of any value that they're going to want back. There will be expiring contracts anyway, so it leaves them in a...
Have you been to Boston? Have you been to LA? That is the reason why. Whatever he's saying about loyalty doesn't matter. He doesn't want to be where it's cold. He wants to be somewhere where it's 30 degrees in the winter, nice and warm.
Isn't New Orleans 30 degrees in the winter?
I don't know about the Clippers.
Swamps.
I think the Clippers could offer, Montrezl Harrell, I think, is better than anything the Lakers can offer, personally. And I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, I think the Clippers have some good assets. That was the second point I was going to make. This, let's not trade the future of this team. Well, your key player on this team is
34 years old. Yeah,
34. I should know that. It's the same age as me. His December birthday, and we have similar receding hairlines as well. That's why I always wear a headband.
That's a good turn.
Yeah. No. Realistically, how important are these future assets? Because you've got LeBron. He's only got. You'd think now, as great as he is, his output is going to start decreasing. He's going to depreciate and decline physically. He's not going to be Cleveland or Miami LeBron. So the guys you need around him, if these are guys who are going to be good in 2 to 3 years, well, how good's LeBron going to be in 2 to 3 years? Still good enough to get them over the line? I think the window for success for the Lakers is a lot smaller than people actually think it is. If their desire is to get a chip, which it has to be, because otherwise there's no... This is the Lakers. All they do is win, air quotes, which is because we know that's clearly not true. Then they need to make that sacrifice of these guys who will be good in 3, 4, 5 years for something that will give them a level of success immediately. Because I don't think in 3, 4, 5 years LeBron is going to be able to carry them.
Yeah, I know. I understand it. And trading for a top 3 player is, who's still got, 10 years left of solid career under him and his prime coming up at the moment.
Right, you'd hope so. And given the amount of games he plays per season, it might be a bit longer than that because he's probably would be nice and rested.
But it's a combination of like hating player power, hating the way the league is working at the moment, and then just not being a fan of the way Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka have kind of gone about their business. Like, you could argue that bringing LeBron James in the first place was not the right decision to be making, considering how competitive the Western Conference is right now, how young your squad was, and the fact that there seems to be this thing at the moment that players don't want to play with LeBron. For years, we were just assuming it was because he lived in Cleveland. But now he's in LA, and they still seem to be struggling to get guys. They missed out on Paul George. They could have thrown the everything in the kitchen sink at the Pacers, and they didn't. And then it was the same with Kawhi again.
Do you think that's because they're going after these guys who want to be the guy on their team versus someone whoever comes to the Lakers is going to be second fiddle to LeBron?
I think it's probably part of a backlash that's coming from fans because of I hate to say it again, but Kevin Durant's decision. Kevin Durant's decision was seen so badly by the casual and the hardcore NBA fan that I think players are kind of possibly afraid of that backlash. Like, there's always been super teams in the NBA. There's always been teams with 1 or 2 stars, maybe even 3 if you look at like the Celtics and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's this clash of player power versus the rules that they agreed upon with the CBA, and the fact that the owners, especially the small market owners, are getting pissed off with the fact that teams like the Lakers, like the Knicks, seem to think they have this undenying right to just pilfer superstars whenever they feel like it. It's a messy situation. I mean, we'll have to see what happens by Thursday, but yeah, it's a case of do you sell the house for a guy who's going to hopefully bring your franchise success and keep you relevant for 10 years, or do you just kind of go with what you've got at the moment and use your head and build a team that way? I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that tends to work. I mean, the Warriors got very lucky with the way that Steph's injury and some of the other guys landed on that team. But at the end of the day, it's not my decision to make, but we'll see what happens. I think the Celtics have probably rung up Dell Demps and said, we'll have this offer. It's up to you if you kind of want to wait or whatnot, but it's a sticky situation. I wouldn't want to be the Pelicans either, because I think I can't remember who it was. I think Joe's made the point the last couple of shows, like, if they lose AD, I think that franchise might be gone from that city.
Yeah, and the worrying thing as well is they're not. Well, I guess it's not worrying, but I don't think they're going to bottom out. I know Randall, Mirotic, and that are available for trade, but I just don't think this city could undergo a team like that that's just always winning sort of between 30 and 35 games. It's going to, I mean, I wouldn't say it's been fun being a fan of this team. Yeah, I guess they were quite decent when they had Chris Paul, but last year they had lightning in the bottle. They won 1 series. That's kind of as good as it's got for them.
Yeah, that's the most impressive series AD's played, and Drew Holiday just happened to be fit and healthy for that one as well, so that worked out.
And they did that without Cousins. They've had bad luck. It's just, I don't know. They're not the worst followed franchise. They have certainly managed, well, basically done the worst job possible in terms of positioning a generational talent for sustained success, which is pretty unforgivable and is why they're in the situation they now find themselves in. Apparently the Lakers are out of the talks. They've pulled out because of the Pelicans' outrageous requests. I imagine that's just more Magic Johnson posturing to try. That's what it's going to be now for the next, what are we now? 22 hours. It's going to be interesting. If he doesn't get shifted by tomorrow, this is all going to start up again come July 1st.
Yeah, I think with Anthony Davis, it's a question of squandered potential versus untapped potential. The Pelicans may have squandered it, but if he lands with the Lakers, are they going to get the untapped potential that is potentially there? It's a really intriguing storyline to be following anyway, but it's kind of like Kevin Garnett, really, isn't it? When he was with the Timberwolves and ended up being traded to the Celtics, and yeah, he kind of got what he wanted that way, but it kind of destroyed a franchise in the process.
And again, that's another franchise that has historically mismanaged talent and has come under all kinds of criticism for it from the ownership down. Sorry,
I think
Joe.
it's pretty embarrassing for the league to have like Rich Paul and stuff going out there and, you know, publicly speaking about all this. Like, they should handle it a little bit better.
I like how they slapped him with a $50,000 fine, and that is
deal.
basically a drop in the ocean. He probably just opened his wallet up and said, "Can I get change?"
Yeah, well, it reminds you of when LeBron was kind of hinting that he was going to leave Cleveland the first time, because Rich Paul and some other guys around the league were coming up on, you know, really obscure websites with unknown sources that LeBron said this and LeBron said that, and that he wanted to leave and wanted to join Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, and like they plant seeds for like a period of 12 months, even more, before the events happen. And yeah, it's a little bit it's a bit sad that the agents have got that much power, but oh well, nothing we can do about it. Right, please check out doubleclutch.uk for all the content that's gone up the last few weeks. Tom Wade did a bit about the trade deadline, questioning where Marc Gasol and Vucevic and some of the Lakers that we talked about tonight and Beal are going to end up. Sam Chadwick did his usual December-January NBA wrap-up, which is a nice, quick, short read. Hugh has done some bits on Adam Silver's top 5 NBA moments so far. There's been loads of stuff. Joe, you did something about the Memphis Grizzlies and how their bland offense is not great to watch. And Ross has done some stuff on the Suns. Surprise, surprise. And yeah, Archie did his first piece after joining us about it being the time to finally respect Nikola Jokic. So it's been pretty busy on the site. It's been good to see, hasn't it, guys?
Definitely, and more of it. Keep going. Keep
Indeed.
Those fingers twitching.
So in case you needed a reminder, the trade deadline is Thursday at 8 o'clock GMT, which I think translates to 3 p.m. Eastern time, noon Pacific time, I think.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. I still get, after being an NBA fan for like 20 odd years, you'd kind of think you'd get used to the time differences, but it still messes us up. But yeah, please go and check out the Double Clutch Twitter feed, which is at Double Clutch UK. If you are tweeting about the trade deadline or any of the games that are taking place over the next week or so, please do include hashtag NBA in the UK, and we'll have a look and retweet and like and comment around the best ones. There's been a lot of people frowning off about the AD moves, obviously, so keep an eye on that. It's really interesting to see what's going on. Quite a lot of jokes about that Raptors and Grizzlies trade suggestion earlier on as well, I've just noticed as I click on our Twitter feed right at the moment. Mr. Mo Moonsea going a bit bonkers there. But yeah, no, it's been a pretty chaotic week. We will try our best to keep up with all the trade news, and then I'm not too sure what we'll be doing Thursday, but obviously if something big ends up happening, we'll probably end up bringing you some sort of emergency podcast, which Joe Hulbert will know because we've done emergency podcasts in the past.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, they're complete chaos. Because you're kind of trying to talk about news that you haven't really seen because it's all emerging at the time. And yeah, no, I can't remember the last time I think the last time we probably did one was LeBron leaving Cleveland, which was a while ago. But yeah, no. Anyway, thanks for coming on, guys.
Always. Thank you.
We'll catch you next week. Toodaloo.
Goodbye.